What's going on, Broncos country? My name's Kev Dan, and this is the Bourbon Broncos No BS Postgame Podcast. Glad you're all here. We got John back. John, I know that David was here last week. It was awesome to have him on. I thought he was better looking than you, but it doesn't seem like that was really the case. So you're the better looking one of the two.
Yeah, I mean, that's not saying much, but he's got the height advantage on me, so hopefully he doesn't listen to this.
Yeah, no, it was good times. Well, talking about good times, there were none to be had for the Broncos, or all of Colorado sports, for that matter, on Saturday night. So we're going to go ahead and do what nobody wants to do and relive the entire experience of the Lions game. So Broncos country, get a drink. You're going to need it, but we're going to talk about it anyway. So here we go. Welcome to the Postgame Podcast.
Orange Weekly, fans, brews, and Broncos news.
Well, guys, that happened. I'm good, John. Are you good? I'm done.
Here we are.
It happened.
Can we just fast forward, 7 days
to the end of the show? Oh, even better. Fast forward the entire week to get to the Patriots game. Please. I would absolutely love that. But hey, guys, look, there's gonna be a lot of things, a lot of raw emotions still, even though it was 2 days ago. I'm still feeling it. I'm still unhappy. But I'm just gonna preface the whole show with this, John. Right? I am not pissed at the fact that we lost. We all talked about this was the one game we could drop. Looking at the chances in the playoffs, I'm seeing a lot of different calculations and stuff, but from the things that I'm playing with on the ESPN, tracker, things other people putting out, we're still looking at about a 75-ish% chance of making the playoffs. We did lose the AFC West, unless we win out and the Chiefs lose out, which isn't going to happen. Unless the Chiefs just lose 3 games, but we're still looking good for a playoff chance. What I'm pissed about, John, and this is going to be the baseline for a whole conversation, is the way in which we lost. Yeah. Right. So look, man, I think we'll just do like what we normally do. Let's rewind the clock a little bit. Let's bring us back to right before kickoff and all of the things that were going through our minds to start the game and how we were feeling, man. So what do you think?
Well, Kev, before kickoff, I knew that I was not going to be able to watch the game live because unfortunately I had a holiday Christmas party to attend. So I shut off myself from the world, the outside world, I should say. Turned my phone off, didn't look at anything until I was able to watch the game later on. And, the strategy in hindsight worked out. But my thoughts on going into this game, exactly what you were saying. This was, I still think, the hardest game we had left on our schedule. Going to Detroit, the away team's never easy, but you're right. I at least wanted us to show up. And I had expectations that we were going to at least keep it close. And so I wanted to see more of that. I wanted to see us continue the momentum from the Chargers game. And, very early on, we saw, very similar to what we saw in the Texans game, just a team that didn't show up. But Kev, what were your thoughts going into this one?
So very optimistic, I would say. There was listening to all the talking heads give their spiel on what they thought was going to happen. I mean, pretty much everyone was saying it was going to be a close game. Maybe a 2-possession game was the biggest spread that I saw from people's score predictions. So that is like, okay, everyone's thinking the same thing. No one's over here going, oh, there's no way that the Broncos are going to stand a chance and that this is going to be like a Miami game repeat. They're just going to get whomped on. They don't know what they're walking into. There was a lot of hype around what this Broncos team could do, and a lot of it was because of the defense. Now, everybody was saying, this offense needs to show up today, but if the defense does what they have been doing against a turnover, as of recent turnover-prone team like the Lions were, this should go at least be a very good game in terms of how close it is. Right. So even on the pregame podcast, like you were talking about, last minute drives or the last drives of the game. And so going into this, it's like, okay, this should be, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. But by the time we get to the halfway through the fourth quarter, we're going to start to see that this team is making a push. The Broncos are making a push to close it out and win it out. Yeah. So that was what I was thinking, man. I was feeling good.
Well, and especially because the Lions in recent weeks really had not looked as scary as they did early on in the season, at least in my perspective. We looked at this game like, oh, this is like months ago we were looking at this game as circle this as a loss, right? And then the weeks progressed, we got closer, Broncos are playing better, Lions are looking less like the Lions at the beginning of the season. So I 100% had hope going into this game, thinking it was doable at the very least. Did not expect to see what I saw.
Yeah,
from the get-go.
Nope. Totally agree. And from the get-go, we can just go ahead and dive into the game, and what happened there. So, before we go through all the stats and everything and all that stuff, we can look at the beginning of the game and early on, what did we see from once again? The defense came out looking decent,
Yeah.
Exactly what I expected from them to do. 2 weeks in a row that the defense nullified an early turnover from the Broncos. And that gave me huge excitement.
Yeah, I was replaying the game in my mind. We get a big stop, early on the first drive, again, taking away a little bit of the home crowd, energy from our defense. And look, we had a sack, I think, on one of the first two plays.
Yep. One of the first two plays. And
everything's going to plan. We get the ball. Oh.
You froze there, bud. Yeah, you might have lost me. We're gonna cut that from the podcast itself, but we'll get John back up here in just a second. For everybody who's watching and listening, please, thank you for tuning in. Please hit subscribe, hit that share button. Definitely appreciate all of your support. But John, as you were saying, good sir, just go back.
Where did I lose you?
Just go back to the start of your thought.
Just the very top. Defense gets a stop first drive. Very excited, right? Offense gets the ball, and we're driving like they were driving. And we had a big play.
Yeah.
Very first pass was to Judy, a 40-yard completion. And I mean, I was feeling very good. I may have been very hungover when I was watching this game, but I was feeling some good energy early on. And then, right away that sack fumble from Russ. Unfortunately, you don't see that often with him, but
no.
I think it crushed the momentum of the offense early on, which sucked. And then to your point, the defense, because they returned that like 30 yards to put them in field goal range at least, and defense came up big to keep us in it early on. The first quarter ended 0-0, I think.
Yeah, sure did.
And then
all the way through the first quarter. So
and then all the other quarters happened after that.
It all happened from there. But look, I mean, we had the fumble, but we got them to punt. We nullified that turnover, which 2 weeks in a row, like I said, huge. We punt, they punt, we punt. And so it seems like, okay, maybe this won't be a high. Oh man, I remember when I had that thought and I was like, I can't believe I had that thought. I was like, okay, well, maybe this won't be a high scoring game like everybody was thinking. Maybe this will be a very defensive game. Both offenses are going to struggle. Defenses are going to come up huge. So maybe this will be like a, 10-7 game or a, 13-10 game kind of a thing, right? Or just going to be ugly. Both teams are just going to be brawling it out all game long. And then things happened. Not good things. Not good things. None of it good.
Basically, from here on out, there's very little positive to talk about.
So if you wanted to tune in for the good part of the podcast, well, that ends here. It's going to be sad and painful from here on out. But please keep listening. We'll try to keep it lively and have some fun with it.
Seems like a good time for a refill.
Yeah, it sure is. Of your sad whiskey. Yeah. Definitely pour some of that. But all of a sudden, we saw the Lions offense just click into high gear.
They figured it out, man.
they figured out real fast. You know, their first, it was an 8-play, 80-yard touchdown, throw in, run in. I mean, they were doing everything pretty much on that drive there. So you're looking at, you know, gain of 19 yards, gain of 20 yards, you know, another gain of 17 yards. So they're just getting huge chunk plays time and time again. And it's just that middle of the field crap that has just always plagued us. That is always plagued. It seems like whenever a team tests us with the over the middle stuff, we get burned.
Yeah.
It's when teams are like, oh, they're not going to let that, you know, be a problem this week. We're going to try all these other things. That's like, man, you could just beat us if you just throw to the middle of the field to your tight end, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, one of the top receivers in the league. Sure, you expect he's going to have a huge game from time to time. I think he put up 110, 111 yards. But it's the tight end that it's so frustrating because we've had these issues in the past with the tight end, and we made this guy. I mean, look, he's having an amazing rookie season, which is hard to do as a tight end in the NFL. But we made him look like an all-pro. I mean, 3 touchdown catches. Who does like no one? Tyreek does that, basically.
Yeah, Tyreek does that. Travis Kelce does that.
Yeah.
Now, you know, and to be fair, you know, to give credit where credit's due, you know, he is breaking records for the rookie tight end position out there in Detroit.
And he might be an all-pro.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, you know, they've had a Hall of Famer. I can't remember his name, but Hall of Famer tight end. So I mean, they've had really good experience at tight. Yeah, thank you. So they've had good experience. Oh no, there's somebody they were talking about that was a Hall of Famer. But anyway, this guy's out there breaking records left and right, and they're like, there's still 4 games to go.
Yeah,
you know. So he was a big emphasis point of we need to find a way to. We're not gonna be able to shut him down, but limit him.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen.
It did not. It did not. He single-handedly, like, he had 3 touchdowns. The Broncos had 2. So you take away his touchdowns, and then maybe it'd be a close game. But unfortunately, we don't have the power to do that, Kevin.
Exactly.
But look at all their touchdown drives, 75 yards, 80 yards, 60 yards. Like, they were long-ass drives.
Yeah.
And every single play were chunk plays. If it wasn't, you know, a 10, 12, 11, whatever, 15-yard catch, the running game was on for them as well.
Yep.
You know, they got 8 yards, 6 yards every time they ran the ball. I mean, both running backs easily could have gotten over 100 yards in this game for them. You know, again,
Gibbs did hit 100 yards.
Another rookie, he gets over 100. I think Montgomery had 85. So, but they only rushed it, I think, around 17 times.
No, they had Montgomery had 17 touches. Gibbs had 11. So they did have 28 total rush attempts.
I got that. Okay.
Now, I mean, but looking at Gibbs, I mean, he was averaging 9.1 yards a carry. Holy! Yeah. Now, I know we've been talking about the Broncos' run game defense has been not good, but this is a whole nother level of not good. This is like 3 other levels of not good. You're essentially giving, every time they run the ball, you are essentially giving them a first down every single time. And if not, it's like second and short.
And keep in mind, that's including the first quarter where they did not score, didn't get very many first downs.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that came in the second through fourth. And, oh my God, it's hard to think about.
No, it, you know, and you look at it, numbers are kind of similar in this regard in terms of the Broncos also had 28 rush attempts. Same number. Only averaged 3 yards a carry. 3. Yeah. Now, out of Samaje Perine 6 carries, he did average 6.2. Yeah. So that, you know, but everyone else down the chain, I mean, Javonte Williams only 27 yards for him on 12 attempts.
Yeah.
Jaleel McLaughlin 2 carries for 2 yards. You know, like they just could not get anything going. And it was about this time of the game. And I want to ask you about this, John. It was about this time of the game, you know, especially, well, you know, the pass rush for the Lions just went berserk. And we had no answer for it.
They didn't get a ton of sacks in this game, but they were applying pressure, or they were stopping the run. I was seeing a trend where it just felt like every drive was the same. It was like we get 1, 2, maybe 3 yards at best on first down, And then second down, we're either like seriously, best case scenario on second down in this game was a no yard game, like an incomplete pass or a run for 0 yards. Other than that, it was -2 yards, -3 yards, a penalty. Like it was bad on second down, which led to, third and longs every single time it felt like. And I don't even know what was our third down numbers, because that's been a big issue for us lately.
5
for 13, so not great. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the 0 for 11 that we saw against the Texans.
Yep.
So even with like the terrible first and second downs, like we were still better efficient. It's hard to say that 5 and 13 is better efficiency because it's not great, but
hey, it's improvement. I guess.
I felt like we were getting into third and longs too often
every time. And when you have no run game, it totally limits your options.
Yeah.
Then you are in those third and long positions, and the defense knows you're going to throw the ball, especially when your run game's not working. Now, if you have a run game that's averaging you 9.1 yards per carry, yeah, you can run the ball on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, whatever, right? But when you're only averaging 2 yards per carry, the defense then knows exactly essentially what type of play you're going to call. And that just makes it so much easier for them. So it snowballed on us rapidly in terms of the offense.
I could not wait for the first half to end. Like I was getting frustrated. I mean, oh my God, those last 3 drives for them on offense. I was like, we got to get into halftime because everything is collapsing. And our run game, to your point, is not working. Like nothing was working. It also felt like there was a few times where we had some big plays, like the first drive we already talked about, big plays that amounted to nothing. I think the second drive, I'm pretty sure Marvin Mims had a close catch. I think he was out of bounds, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's that second foot, I think it was.
Yeah, and so that was super close. It was like one of those things, again, we've talked about 2 weeks in a row, where it's like, if that's Cortland Sutton, I feel like he's getting in somehow. I don't know how, but I think he's getting in. And then there was like 1 or 2 other drives where it's like we had a big play and then we just kind of squandered it and nothing came of it. And then the Lions were figuring it out. They were figuring it out, and it's like we couldn't get into halftime soon enough. And then we started calling timeouts on their drive, like with their 2-minute drive. We started calling timeouts like we were going to get the ball back and go and score, which I like the idea of it kind of, but in that situation, I was like, get us to halftime. Like, we don't need to extend this longer. Like, let's get into the locker room and like try and
start fresh.
And then we gave them more time to go figure it out and go get a touchdown on their final drive of the half. And that, I don't know, it just frustrated me because you could see the writing on the wall for what the Lions had figured us out at that point. And you just got to get to halftime is the feeling I was getting. I don't know. Did you have that same feeling?
I didn't think about it in the moment, to be honest with you, but looking at it, when that the opposing team is just bearing down on you like none other, the score is already 14-0 at that point.
Right.
I get that you want to get the ball back in the hands of your offense, but your offense hasn't done anything.
No.
There's zero confidence on them being able to make something happen, even get in field goal position. So like what you're saying now, I understand the logic behind it and everything, but I would want to keep the Lions offense on their toes almost. Like I want them to have to worry about the play clock. I want them to worry about, we're going to cut that. The play clock. We want them to feel the pressure, right? But when you give them that timeout, or when we take a timeout, that's great. It rests our defense, but it rests them as well. And now they have extra time to talk about what they want to do.
Right.
And look, cool. Maybe we could have gotten, a field goal. Well, by then it would have been 14-3, but they still scored that touchdown, 21-0. So maybe 21-3. Like that's not going to do anything.
They didn't need, like they had all the momentum, but they had everything on their side. We didn't need to help them by giving them a timeout, help them think about, what they're doing here. Jared, you're welcome to join, by the way.
Jared is welcome to join. We have a guest.
We won't yell at you. We won't yell at you like Sean Payton yells at Russell Wilson. I promise.
I might. I'm kind of feeling I'm on the verge.
Right. I won't yell at you. I won't yell at you.
I'm a screamer, don't you know?
But
But Jared asked a good question that maybe we could use the halftime break here, if you will, to think about. This is where everything's falling apart around the Broncos. The defense is just totally collapsed. The offense is doing absolutely nothing.
Kevin, they had 70 yards in the first half. 70 yards.
Yeah, don't remind me.
And 41 of those yards came on the first drive. So after the first drive, they did absolutely nothing.
They did absolutely nothing. But who do we start looking at this to blame? If you had to blame somebody, looking at the first half that we've had a look at so far, like where's your mind at this point when you're watching the game going? Again, this is what needs to change to get us back into it.
Again, it was that same feeling, not showing up to a game. And we've seen it now 2 times in the past 3 weeks where one team comes out ready and one team doesn't. And yes, we've been away both times. And yes, we had 3 games in the span of 13 days, something like that. That's hard. I get it, but it happens. It just happens in the NFL. You have to get over. I mean, luckily we did not lose all 3 games. I still have confidence in this team, just the way that we were able to bounce back against the Chargers last time. But man, we didn't have this performance against the Texans, and maybe the Lions are a better team than the Texans.
Maybe
I'd have to say they probably are.
Yeah,
you don't think so?
When they're on their game. But they were inconsistent. Like they had a dip in their season. Right now, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the game that they go, boom, we got it, and we're gonna go out there.
Yeah, we might have just gave them
rip down the NFC. Right? We could be their jumpstart.
Right. That's very true.
But yeah, I mean, I was sitting there just thinking, like, the pass rush from the Lions, I think hadn't really, hit me in terms of how often they were doing it, how effective it was for them. So my biggest thing is our offense needs to get something going, right? So I'm looking at Sean Payton going, dude,
when are we going to show up? When are you going to wake up?
We've got to put points on the board. At that point at halftime, I still had full confidence that defense was going to come out and defense was going to go, okay, enough, enough. This is not who we are. This is not how we play, all soft, missing tackles, letting things go. We're going to tighten it up. We're going to find a way to get to Jared Goff, get in his face, and force some turnovers.
Yeah.
I would have put money down on that. So my concern was offense at halftime.
Yep, I 100% agree. I had all the confidence in the world we were going to figure it out on defense. Man, we have talked a lot this season of the whole bend, don't break mantra for Vance Joseph. That was non-existent yesterday.
No, it was just
fast forwarding a little bit here, but they still scored 3 touchdowns in basically the second quarter, I think. Actually, definitely in the second quarter. Yeah. And so, but again, to your point, yes, I had faith the defense was going to figure it out. I was worried about the offense. To Jared's question, who do you blame? I mean, one team showed up, one team didn't. One team very clearly had a game plan that was working. Now, you look at that first drive. If we don't get that fumble in that first drive, who knows where that goes? Who knows how that changes the whole outcome of the game, honestly? If we're able to score a touchdown, if we're able to score a field goal, I think our offense probably has a little bit more mojo and can kind of, at least not punt every freaking drive of the first half, and maybe things go differently first in the second half. But yeah, I mean, I think all that goes to preparation for the game. Going back, I think so. It just felt like he was out coached. Now, again, this stuff happens in the NFL. Sure. You're going to have a game like this. So it comes down to, again, I still feel like that we control. Technically, we don't control our own destiny. I can't actually say that, but
to a degree, we do.
To an extent, if we do have to win out from here. So if we can bounce back like we did after we didn't show up against the Texans, we're just gonna have to carry that forward for the next 3 games.
Yep, and then hope that a couple of these teams lose that need to lose, right? And there's a lot of scenarios that we don't have time to break down every single one, right? But essentially, the big one that we're all concerned about is if the Broncos win out, we'll have about a 70 to 80% chance of making the playoffs. You're looking at. Yeah,
I think 10 wins gets us in still. 9 wins. I think I would
say normally. I would say normally, but this year there's all these teams that are 8-6 and 7-7.
There's a ton, but I think that enough of them played. I think there's enough between them and there's just all of those teams have like backup quarterbacks. And it blows my mind how all of those teams seem to have won this past weekend. Like if we have another weekend like this, then we're not
this was. I meant to say this at the beginning of the show. Like this was the worst weekend you could have possibly had as a Colorado sports fan, not just Broncos, right? But as a Colorado sports fan, because the Nuggets lost, the Avs lost, the Broncos lost, but then every game we needed to go in our way outside of the Broncos went the other way, right? It was just amazing.
I watched all those games, at least the fourth quarter or the end of each game, and it's always like close. And the team we needed to lose pulled it out at the last second. And I was just like, seriously? Like, I'm glad I didn't know sports betting this weekend because I think I would have lost a lot of money.
Hey, if I had put a running bet on, all the things to go against the Broncos, I would have made a pretty good penny this weekend. But I wouldn't do that just because I was
gonna say, you seem like the Broncos pessimist, Kevin.
So I wouldn't do that. But now let me get your take on this because I said this during the halftime show, and somebody, I'm not gonna say took offense to it, but disagreed.
I'm already offended. I don't know.
That's fair. I said that the Broncos have a problem beating good teams consistently.
Okay.
Would you agree or not?
I mean, how far back are we going here?
This year. We're looking at this year, this head coach, this coaching staff, these players. And this year, we are inconsistent when it comes to beating good teams.
I mean, when you look at that 5-game winning streak that we had, I disagree with you. But I mean, we had a great run there where it always seemed to come down to the last possession. Yeah. I mean, even the Texans team, we technically could, we definitely could have won that game on the last throw and weren't able to pull it out in a game. I mean, that game, I feel like the Vikings game, the Bills game, all those games felt like we probably shouldn't have been where we were. And, and we pulled it out. Now, if you want to go from the start of the season, I'd probably tell you you're 50-50 because you look at Dolphins, the Chiefs the first time around, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But that's what I'm talking about.
Like we've shown that we can play good teams and beat them. Okay. I'm not taking anything away from that whatsoever. My problem is, especially now later in the season when these games are more meaningful, and I get we're on the road, but you're going to have to learn how to win on the road. Well, if you're telling me that, this team can only beat the good teams at home, that's far from being able to say, let's get in the playoffs and we have a chance to win a game.
I mean, more concerning than the consistency of beating good teams is that how we played on the road, at least recently for me. So if you want to talk about recency bias, and you can say recency bias, well, we've been consistently beating good teams recently. Well, we've consistently not been playing great on the road recently. So if we're looking at a team that we're hoping is going to be a wild card team, guess what? Week 1's in the playoff is going to be on the road. And probably against a pretty good team. It's not
there
like
a scenario I ran
South team week 1.
There is a scenario I ran on the ESPN thing where it has the Chiefs at the second seed.
How many hours have you dedicated to this?
Like 20 minutes. I'm just clicking buttons. I think this, if this goes that way and that goes,
Saturday, it's fine.
2/3 of the games don't matter, so it's like, okay, whatever. I'm really looking at like 4 or 5 teams. Right. But interesting scenario could be Broncos get the 7th seed, Chiefs get the 2nd seed, wild card game in Arrowhead. And the Chiefs are going to want blood.
Yeah, I don't want to play the Chiefs in Arrowhead. I don't care how bad they're looking recently.
Until
they lose the Super Bowl, they're still the Super Bowl champions.
Here's the thing. I'm not saying that
until they don't win the Super Bowl.
Right. There you go. I'm not saying that the Broncos, for me to believe that the Broncos are a good team, that they have to beat all of the good teams. That's not going to happen. No. You're going to lose games in a season unless you're the 1972 Miami Dolphins. Otherwise, you're going to lose a game or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 in a season, right? It's how we've lost the last 2 big games. I know the Texans game was close. I get it. Okay. But we didn't really show up until halftime.
It was the second half.
This last game, we didn't show up at all. No. And this is supposed to be a playoff mentality game. And so I hope we get in the playoffs. But from these 2 games right here, this tells me that we're not only going to be a one and done, we could get embarrassed, And so there has to be something that comes from this game that kicks them in the butt to say, you gotta step it up. If you're not giving it 100%, you're clearly not giving it 100%. So what is it going to take for you guys to go out there and play like a, playoff worthy team?
Yeah. I got to believe that we wouldn't show up the way we did against the Texans. We wouldn't show up the way we did against the Lions if we're in the playoffs.
We've done it twice now in 3 weeks.
If that's how we show up, then yeah, 100% believe that we will.
Well, I'm just saying that's my concern. That's my concern is all I'm saying.
It's a very valid concern. The thing is, Kevin, we have to win 3 games in a row to have a chance.
Can you tell I don't want to talk about the Lions game anymore? I'm like, let's go talk. Well, I want to go over here now.
We put ourselves in a position where every game is a must win. And I mean, they're all winnable games again, but it's not easy to win 3 in a row against the worst team in the NFL. So yeah, it's going to be a tough rest of the season.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back into this game. Second half of Lions. Yeah, we need to. No, one other thing I said during the halftime show that I was very adamant about that everyone else was agreeing with was that the Broncos would need to. Well, yeah, it's my show. So even if they disagree, I tell them, no, you do actually agree with me. You're not allowed to disagree. Everybody was saying that the Broncos need to do what they haven't done all season, and that is to go out and get points to start the second half. And we haven't even got a field goal after halftime. So we're sitting here saying we need to go out there and get a touchdown after halftime. What happens? Man, they give me hope. Get the ball, go down the field, looking good. 21-14 game. And man, at this point, I'm chomping at the bit because I'm like, oh, the defense is they're out of their heads. They are zoned in on what's going on. They are going to get some turnovers. This game's going to be 21-21 in the next 10 minutes, and it's going to be awesome. And that didn't happen.
Okay. Like about halftime adjustments. Who would think that the Broncos offense is going to be the unit that makes the adjustments?
Yeah. I wouldn't have. I was thinking that was going to be a real long shot.
And then the defense doesn't show up.
Yeah.
Doesn't make adjustments. Like what? I mean, I was very excited after the touchdown. I still knew it's a 2 touchdown game at that point, 21-7. But it's like, okay, we get to stop here. We score a field goal or touchdown again, and now things are going in our direction.
We're back in it. We're back.
But then the defense did not make halftime adjustments after those first 3 drives. The Lions scored a touchdown on every single drive except for 1. That's insane. That is not bend, don't break. I would say that is just opposite.
Did they even get off the plane? Like, who were those imposters wearing the Broncos jerseys? Because that is just so uncharacteristic of our defense.
Because as soon as the Lions scored that touchdown in the second half, I was like, we don't have an answer for this right now. And I know we'll talk about probably a lot of time about this next drive for the Broncos offense because the whole world's been talking about it. But I was feeling pretty down after the Lions scored for their first possession of the second half, thinking, I don't think it matters what we do at this point on offense. I think they're pretty much going to score a touchdown every drive is the feeling I was getting.
No, 100%. To me, that was the nail in the coffin. That was, these guys are just walking all over us, and time's running, when you're down 28-7, and it's halfway or near the end of the third quarter. Yeah. Time is already a factor,
right?
It is time to 100%. Get going, 100%. But you don't have time to mess around.
Yeah.
Everything just kept going wrong for us all night long to include on this drive. Now, talking about this drive, I will preface it by saying I understand the anger, but we did not lose because of the refs.
Yes.
The refs did not allow 42 points or whatever be put up against us.
Yes.
The refs did not hold us to only 10. Fine, we get that other touchdown. It's instead of 17, it's like 24-42 or whatever. Like, the refs screwed us on that one drive.
Yeah.
Got it.
No, we can do it. We can do a weekly segment, Kevin, and maybe this is something we adopt where we just do the bad refereeing call of the week, the bad, fucked over the Broncos call of the week. Again, I'll say it again. I think refereeing this year has just been bad, straight up.
It has been
throughout the year,
throughout
the league. Every game, it seems like there's at least one call that's just like, where did you guys come up with this? Like, this is just, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, maybe and it's so inconsistent.
It always seems to be against the Broncos.
Right.
And spoiler alert,
but you're seeing it from other teams.
Week. What's that?
But you're seeing it from other teams every week now too. It's not just like, okay, a couple teams, every weekend are upset. There's like one or two terrible calls in almost every single game. And it's not so much, half of it is that they're making it up, but the other half is that it's just inconsistent. You're telling me that Tooney was offsides 4 times and then you called it on the 5th time? Yeah. But when the Broncos guard helmet is just a little too far forward, you're not going to give him a warning.
I'm sorry.
You're just going to call that. See, so that's where my frustration comes in, is because you're not being, if you're going to, okay, you get one warning and then it's a flag. If you do that across the league, there cleans up a whole issue. You shouldn't have to give warnings, to be honest.
Yeah, there should be no warning. That's not how
penalties work. There should be no warning.
That's why when Mahomes is complaining about that it shouldn't have been called because it didn't affect the play. Like, that's not how penalties work. You don't call
that's not
penalties just when it affects the play. Like, what?
Yep. Like, are you not an NFL quarterback? Like, do you not know this?
I mean, so that's ridiculous. So I'm glad we got a chance to make fun of Mahomes a little bit here. But
yes.
You don't see it on the replay. And I don't know. Maybe we just get rid of refs altogether and just do robot refs, because the robot ref's not going to make that call,
Yeah. Be like, nope, he was 0.2 centimeters offsides.
Oh, yeah. Well, then the game might change a little bit. Maybe
it's
going to
change. Well, yeah.
But
he hit that player with the 2 pounds per square.
You have immediately changed my mind. You have immediately changed my mind.
Now that I think about it, I also think that's a bad idea. But that's my frustration with this is no refs.
No refs.
That's also terrible because then they're just
rules. You call your own penalties, and if it's bullshit,
it's not gonna.
There's gonna be some fighting.
Next thing you know, there are 3 teams playing in the Super Bowl, and nobody knows what's going on. It's just mass chaos and pandemonium.
All right. How many bad ideas you want from me tonight, Kev?
Let's just keep it going.
Keep it at 5 minutes.
But so that's I agree with you, and I feel the frustration, the anger from Broncos country. That was the weakest offsides call I've ever seen. And when there's so much heat, like if this was the same week, it's not like the Kansas City thing happened early in the season and now we're like 3 months later. This is within a week of each other. You're telling me there was no call to the refs to say, here's how we need to fix this situation moving forward. And if it is, we need to apply it.
And they're like, if you think he's a centimeter offsides, call it. And it's like, I look at the replays, I'm like, no, I don't see. I still don't see it when I look at the replay. So
yeah,
I don't know what they're looking at.
I don't know, man.
Maybe the ref. Maybe this is it. Maybe the ref was a step farther back than he realized. He was looking down the line, and because of that angle, he thought it. Maybe it's just a positioning thing, and they'll clean it up. The refs always clean it up. They always get it right in the future.
You're funny, man. You got jokes tonight. I love it.
I always have jokes.
Look. I know we were close to getting the touchdown on those other 2 plays. The first one, I think he was. I don't know if he was short or not, but that would not have been overturned to be a touchdown. There was no clear.
Are you talking about McLaughlin?
McLaughlin's, yeah. The second one, which I think was Williams, that one I think you could have challenged. Now, I want your take on this. Now, I know we had already burned a timeout earlier, maybe even on that drive, due to miscommunication. So I get it. We're down by a couple scores. you want to preserve your timeouts, but you also need points desperately.
Yeah.
I would have thought that Sean Payton would have thrown the red flag on that other touchdown attempt, because I thought there was enough to turn it over, to show that the ball crossed the line.
On both of those plays, if they call it a touchdown, it's a touchdown. Which, by the way, going back to reffing, they typically do in those situations, because if you call it a touchdown,
then it's reviewed.
It's automatically reviewed.
Yeah.
But they don't. And, that shit happens. I actually disagree. I think it's flipped. I think the McLaughlin one was more likely to be called, because I think the ball breaks the plane and then he's pushed
That's what I'm talking
backwards.
about. Okay. That's what I'm talking about.
And I think the Javonte Williams one is easier. And again, both times they were called short on the field. So I think the Javonte Williams one is harder for them to overturn in that situation. I think the McLaughlin one is the one that everyone's giving Sean Payton heat for. And I get what he's saying. Like, it is hard to get a successful challenge for field position, but when it's breaking the plane of it is very black and white when you break the plane, just because of the change of the color on the field. And it's a line that goes across the field. It's not like you're hoping to see a hash mark from a weird camera angle. Like, you have cameras down the line of the end zone that's going to tell you or not. So I hear what he's saying, and yes, he's not successful in these situations, like, historically, but I did feel like the McLaughlin one, and then the other thing is everyone was getting on Russ for snapping the ball too quickly but I think both of those, after both of those plays, to not allow the replay team to kind of analyze it more. But it's like,
right.
I mean, how is that not relayed to him when they're given the play calls? Hey, maybe bring this all the way down to the 1 second mark, not 20 seconds early. Like,
miscommunication.
You can't allow that to happen twice.
Right.
But yes, I don't know if either of those get overturned, to be honest, because it was called short on the field. Yeah. And if they were both called touchdowns, I think they both would have stayed touchdowns too. It's like one of those plays.
The only, Hunter, I agree with you. It's just, when you're a team in a very desperate situation, it calls for a desperate measure. Holding on to another timeout is not going to do you any good. Maybe there is that perfect camera angle that they just see it just right, but. So the whole thing was just a meltdown. Like, nothing was going our way that day, in any way, shape, or form. The end of
that drive was a complete meltdown. But it goes back to our point before. It's like, are we really getting back into this game with a touchdown there? Yes, it becomes a 2-score game. That's better than 3, but the way our defense was playing, I was like, it doesn't, like, everyone is so overhyped on that end of that drive, and it's just like, I in my heart do not believe it would have made a difference in the outcome of the game. Now, we've seen it before, right? We've seen it before where the Broncos get it figured out and they make it a close game, and maybe that would have been the catalyst for that would have started that whole thing. But this was not the same defensive performance we have seen basically since the Dolphins game.
Yeah. And it's sad to see that, they came out so lackluster that they found themselves in a hole they couldn't dig themselves out of by way before half, and that's where the frustration comes into, is like, I get that we're in a good position to get into the playoffs, but we need to now start thinking and asking ourselves, is this a playoff caliber team?
Right.
The question just right now is no. Now there's still 3 weeks in the season, and let's say we
know, because there's 7 teams that get in, and we're number 10. So
right, yeah. So, but assume we get in, right? I'm going to have my orange and blue shaded goggles on, and saying, "Yeah, go Broncos! Well, holy crap, we're in the playoffs." Don't be wrong, I'm not going to be sitting here like, "Oh, boo, we're in the playoffs." But then it's like, well, do we really stand a chance against some of these other teams? And they're close. I really do think they're close, but there are just some major issues that keep cropping up that do not seem to get resolved. And when teams nitpick on those things, they find great success against us with it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you were seeing from the pass rush, but I just cannot understand how the Lions pass rush was just getting through our entire offensive line and getting that kind of pressure to rush over and over and over and over and over again.
We've seen it every game, honestly. And I had so much hope after that first drive that we were going to be like, okay, that was just a crappy way to end that drive, but our offense is looking okay. And then the second drive, it's like Mims, yeah, he got the second foot out of bounds, but that could have been a game-changing play. And then it just fell apart for the first half. But I mean, look, we did score 17 points in the second half. Now, I don't know, maybe the Lions took their foot off the gas a little bit against us. I don't know, but
trying to kill clock something. Yeah.
Yeah. But getting 17 points in one half is not easy in any game, I don't think. So yeah, to your point of like, yeah, if we get in, does it really, I mean, look, it matters.
That's a conversation for 3 weeks.
This team has not been in the play. If anything, just so we can stop hearing about the last time.
Oh my God, that's true. Yeah.
and there is, I mean, I care.
Now, I mean, the good thing that I hope, the silver lining that I hope comes from all of this, the Texans game, this game, whatever happens, whether we get in the playoffs or not, I hope that fuels the fire over the offseason to really get them focused on, okay, we can do this. You know, we can put all of that negative media behind us, all the, you know, it's been so long, you know, they won the Super Bowl and it's like the longest playoff drought, blah, 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 blah. They can put that behind them and they can say, cool, now we have a path forward, right? We're seeing success. Let's build off of that. But I think at some point it comes down to who wants it more. And very clearly on this game, the Lions just wanted it heart and soul, and the Broncos were kind of just there to see what happened. I mean, that's what it seemed like to me.
I'll say this. The one unit I won't blame is special teams.
Yep. Agreed. No, 100%. Because like what you were saying, like at least the Lions had to go full length down the field on these, right? They weren't getting short field, you know, it's not like we were punting bad and they kept starting at their 40 or 45 yard line or something silly like that, right? We were making them work. We were doing the work that we could on special teams. It wasn't even close to enough compared to the failures of the other two squads.
Turns out special teams, it's not 1/3.
What?
Yeah, I know, that's shocking.
But if it's, you know, if offense and defense are good and special teams suck, they get a lot of highlights, you know, God.
We've talked about it.
We have, right? We've seen those weeks. So look, man, the rest of the game, it just was the same.
It really didn't matter in my mind once that we go for the field goal. Okay, we're still down 3 scores, and then they score right away again. And it's like, it really was the game's over. Like there was never a single part of me after that point, or probably before that point too, where I was like, well, maybe this could happen, maybe that could happen, maybe we get back into it this way. And it was just like game over. And you know, that just at some point in every game, there's going to be a point where one team says game over. Yep. And for us, it was early on in this game. It was like the absolute moment probably was around the start of the fourth quarter, but really it was kind of early.
Oh, by the time those touchdowns didn't count and everything, that was it. Could, I mean, obviously with the way Coach Payton reacted, the way the players just were non-existent. I mean, absolutely non-existent from there. And I mean, it was just a total like, yeah, we're done, you know? Yeah.
But to your question, okay, if you're looking at moving on, regardless of how this season ends, and well, I guess you can't say regardless because, hey, you get in the playoffs, who knows what happens. But
let's say, I mean, even then you're close. You're on the cusp. Like you were, you know, 1 game against the Raiders, 2 points against the Commanders away. You're talking about being a field goal away, essentially, from being in the playoffs. You know, like you can't get any closer than that.
You've opened this Pandora's box, and everyone has talked about this in the NFL in the last 2 days. This postseason, is this Sean Payton, Russell Wilson connection gonna continue? Is it gonna work out? I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this partnership.
I think the biggest driver out of all of this is money.
Okay. That's
You know,
fair.
when you have a contract as big as Wilson's is right now, a couple things need to happen. One, Russ needs to restructure his contract. He does. I think he does. He hasn't played in 2 seasons.
What's his incentive to do that, though?
To get to the playoffs and win the Super Bowl again.
Okay.
And take money as incentive pay versus guaranteed pay. Like turn it more into incentives.
He has another season like this where it doesn't seem like it's all Russ's fault to me, anyways. And
sure. I'm not.
They restructure his contract next year. He gets one more season, and now he's just out on his
Well,
ass.
here's the other incentive for that. We have more money now in the cap space, so we can bring in better players, better offensive linemen to protect him, bring in more depth, get him more weapons to get this offense going.
All fair points, but are the Broncos going to commit to him like that?
And that's the thing. Like, if we don't and we cut him, you're also talking about money in terms of the huge dead cap space hit that we're going to take for the next 2 to 3 years. You know, so there is a tipping point where it becomes worth it. Like if Russ doesn't, and again, like you said, I think Russ is doing much better this year. I mean, look at the 5-game win stretch, right? I mean, he was phenomenal. He's showing that he still has it, but you know, at some point you got to start thinking about the future. And so in 2 to 3 years where, okay, us cutting him, we're still going to have a dead cap hit, but it's not going to be hundreds of millions of dollars, a huge percentage of our cap space, you know, then we can have that conversation and be like, yeah, is this time to move forward or not? Right now, I think it's just, you know, he has shown enough improvement and he's worked well enough with Sean Payton over this season that he comes back next year for sure. You know, then there's the conversation of, well, do we draft a quarterback this year in the draft to kind of spend some time behind him to be the quarterback of the future?
Would be great. Ideally.
Yeah. You know, but then you're kind of telling Wilson, like, hey, you know, we really only think that you're going to be around for another 2-ish seasons, and then we're going to hand the reins to this guy. You know, you're kind of sending the message to Rush and saying, like, you know,
that's fine.
You're not going to see your full
guy
contract.
can't play forever, right? Like,
well, yeah.
When we got him, I would have been happy with 3 seasons out of the dude. 3 high-level seasons. We haven't like officially gotten one yet, but so I think it's a fair assessment to be like, yeah, you got 1 or 2 more seasons because and it's like at that point, I'm pretty sure the 5th year of his contract cannot be that big of a hit.
No, it drops off. Yeah,
it's gotta be like almost
by year 4 it starts dropping off. Yeah,
for a quarterback, anyways, quarterback for a contract that he has. But my thing is like, what's the other option though? Like at this point, we have ruled ourselves out of like probably the top 3 to 4 to maybe even 5 top quarterbacks in this draft.
Yep.
Unless we do something crazy, which I do not want us to do, to mortgage like the entire future to get
3 more first-round picks for no, we're not. No, we're done with that.
Yeah, and I don't think we're gonna do that. So I think we're going to be with Russ. And I think it's a fine thing. If we take a quarterback where we're going to be drafting somewhere in the late teens, you know, that's a guy that you could develop potentially. Or maybe you wait a year, maybe you punt it a year and do it next year. I don't know what the alternative is. Like, are we just giving up? Like,
I think we're staying. I don't think we're. Yeah, I don't think we're giving up. I think we're staying the course. That's the best way to put it. We're looking at other options. We are looking at the numbers to see, you know, if we needed to move on, when would be a good time to do that. But for right now, fiscally more than anything, it makes sense just to keep the guy. I would
like what free agent quarterback.
I know. Well, exactly. Like
that's going to be better than him. Like, I don't know.
I think, you know, Russ listens to our podcast.
Obviously.
I have that for
everyone.
Yeah. So first off, for us, we love you. Like, I'm not, you know, crapping on you.
I want to keep you.
I would implore you to maybe think about restructuring your contract. You know,
that would be ideal.
Help the team out, bring you in more weapons, better protection. You're gonna feel better. You're gonna do better. I know you want your new daughter to see you win another Super Bowl, man. You know, so let's make this happen, right? I'm not saying cut his salary in half. I'm saying let's take some of the guaranteed money and
Based
turn
on
it
his
more
salary,
into
you could
incentives.
ask him to cut it in half, and he'll be
he's already just fine.
he'll be fine with a tenth of his salary.
But yeah, it's like turn this more into incentives. Hey, win a playoff game, then you'll get a huge chunk of that money back. So there's options there. I think you're going to see a lot of a couple different moves that the Broncos are going to make during the offseason in terms of restructuring contracts, freeing up some of the cap space,
That'd be huge.
We have the richest owners in the league. Like, they're going to make things happen.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. But I guess the core of my question is, how much are you making out of this dust up between Sean Payton and Russ on the sideline?
Oh, nothing. I'm not making
nothing.
Could it? The one thing I'll say for consistency's sake is, just for the same amount of crap I was giving Jerry Jeudy for the hissy fit he threw on the field, that was because he wasn't getting the ball thrown to him when he was wide open. Dude, do that in the locker room, do that on the sideline. Don't make a big public appearance of it. Okay, well, Sean, I get you were pissed off in the moment. Look, we all lose our temper, but same thing to him. Dude, take it to the locker room, Yeah. But screaming, it's not, I don't know what was said. He's not going to tell us what was said, and that's perfectly fine by me. I don't think that there's like the two don't like each other. I don't think that there's any major disagreements or anything between them. I think Sean Payton lost heat in the moment. I still think there's a much better way to do it, and as a head coach, because look, when the other players see the head coach screaming at your quarterback, it kind of really doesn't matter for what,
No,
unless he's saying I really loved the fact that you brought over some homemade cookies last week. I
think that would go over differently. I think that would go over differently.
And pointing those were just the chocolate chips were. It was perfect. It was perfect. Okay.
You know what? And to your point, Kevin, maybe that is what he was saying, and maybe he doesn't want to say that.
Calm.
He doesn't want to say that. Because
I know.
He doesn't want the secret to get out that Russ makes amazing gingerbread cookies. 2, he doesn't want to get all the flack for talking about gingerbread cookies when you're down by 40 points against the line.
I really got to tell him this, but I'm going to yell so that people are mad, right? I will say, Russ kept his composure. He didn't look agitated. He kind of just stood there and took it. He was like, yeah. I mean, not even a head nod of got it, or he just kind of just you're yelling, and you're walking away. Okay, I'll look over here now.
And there's been commentators that are I want Russ to fire back at him, and
no.
And then Sean Payton would respect him more, and and that's what Sean Payton wants to see out of Russ. And it's I don't know, maybe, who knows, but it's it's all distraction. None of it matters if you're going to go out and lose 42-17. So
yep, that's the bigger picture here. And that's what I'm more upset about. If there are a whole number of situations to talk about what ifs and everything, but
and rebounding next week.
Look, if they rebound next week, nobody's going to be talking about how Sean Payton yelled. Nobody's going to talk about
but
that.
It is very bad optics in the NFL to be yelling at your starting quarterback on the sideline, and in a situation where it's what? I don't even understand what he was yelling at him about.
Yeah.
And he keeps saying after the fact in his press conferences today, and
it was the play after, or whatever.
He was just upset about the penalty, and it's well, that's not Russ's fault. Why are you mad at Russ for that?
Yeah,
it doesn't really add up to me. But
no.
And so other people have speculated, that he didn't take enough time to allow them to see. But it's again, that's why you have you have communication in the headset to be do not snap the ball now. Yeah, I think they can talk to each other up to 10 seconds in the play clock. And Russ was snapping the ball on those 2 plays, 19 seconds, 20 seconds. They could have been talking to him and be no, don't do that. Don't do that. Do it. And then it just seems like they weren't. So
right.
I don't know how you could blame Russ for not scoring a touchdown there.
No, I don't either.
I think it was what you said, taking out frustration.
Yeah.
But again, optics. Can't do that to your quarterback, bro.
That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway, And it's because, I'm not going to give Sean Payton a free pass, because I harped on and I tore apart Jerry Jeudy. Rightfully so. I still stand by that, right? I think he deserved every bit of crap he got. he did better this last week, right?
Yeah, he got 70 yards.
Yeah, so
first play of the game, he got 40 freaking yards right there. Like,
yeah, I'm like, cool, man, we're good now.
He's not dead to the Broncos, so
right. So
same thing that is one thing you want to see from your organization, not giving up on guys just because they had a bad week, bad month, bad season, even. So
right. But that same thing to Sean Payton, man, you should not have done that. I'll stand by anyone else who says like that was totally wrong for optics and blah 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 blah. I'll be like, but I get it. I get the frustration, and I got the frustration for Jerry Jeudy too. Like I understand where you're coming from, but there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And as a head coach, you've got to be even more aware of the optics.
I don't
know.
You're talking about Jerry Jeudy, who's on his rookie contract still and is new to the NFL in that regard, and a guy in Sean Payton who's been here doing this
fourth season,
literally decades. Like,
yeah, but this is his fourth season. I think it's after the second season you can say this guy's been around the block a couple times.
I understand what you're saying, but
even
Jerry
more
Jeudy in that situation, Sean Payton in that situation.
Yes,
I don't know how you could lose your cool like that without. Yeah, but that's the way Sean Payton is. Like, do I want to be best friends with the guy? Probably not. Well, that's a lie. He's the head coach of the Broncos. I do want to be best friends with him. But he kind of like, he is intense. He's Bill Parcells, right? He comes from that lineage.
He does.
And so that's what you're going to get from him. So we get it. We kind of get it at this point. But he's going to get torn apart. If that's what we're going to see every week from the whole national media, which whatever, I don't care as long as we're winning, but we're not going to have these meltdowns if we're winning. So
exactly
goes both ways.
Well, look, man, this was obviously the show was fun. I like hanging out with you. It's always a good conversation, good talk.
Don't say it with too much confidence, Kev.
The game, well, yeah, I'm not going to say it was better with David here last week, but I guess I'm glad you're back here now. Sorry, had to. But you're just going to leave me. Okay, that's fair. Look, guys, the Broncos obviously did not have a good week at all. I think you just hopefully one of those games you're just like,
I can just leave, Kev. If you don't want me here, I can leave.
No, I want you here. I would prefer you to be here over me being alone.
Are you trying to recreate the Sean Payton meltdown now?
Kind of. Sean, if you didn't listen, no, I'm not gonna. Okay. Cut that. And look, I'm really hoping that this was just out of the net. The 4 weeks here. This was the week that just anything that could have gone wrong for us did. We got all the bad juju out of the way now, and it's going to be smooth sailing from here on out. We're going to win some games. We're going to play really well. Other teams we need to lose are going to lose. We're getting the playoffs, and then we'll see what happens from there. But I'm just really hoping we can put this all behind us and talk about good things next week.
To end on a positive note, yes, it was an ugly way to lose. There's no way around that against the Lions. But we did have this marked on a calendar as the most likely loss. When we were all excited about the five game win streak, we're like, this Lions game is probably and then we were trying to find losses other places, right? So at the end of the day, it's a loss, and that's it. It's not. It did not. To be clear, it did not reset the barometer of bad losses for the year. It's going to take a lot to top that line or the Dolphins game,
right? Well, at least we didn't get 63 put up on us, like the Chargers and that mess.
Oh, yeah. So if we had lost to the Raiders, like we lost to if we had a game like the Raiders Chargers, that would be
different.
That would reset the barometer.
I think so.
But you look at these teams. 9-5 Cleveland. Yeah, they're probably in just because of their wins at this point. But they have fourth string actually, Joe Flacco as their quarterback. Like, it's not crazy to think that Joe Flacco is going to lose 3 games in a row, right?
Well, who are they playing? One of these teams that are playing them, like, just shut Joe Flacco up. Yeah. I can't stand seeing his smug little face out there smiling. It's like, dude, nobody wanted you for the longest time.
Yeah. But if I were him, If I were him, I'd be doing the same thing. I'd be like, fuck all you.
I don't blame him, but I'm also kind of at the same time hoping somebody shuts him down real good and brings him back down to earth.
There's nothing to say that the Browns can't lose 3 in a row. Jaguars are the 4th seed because someone has to win that division. I mean, they just lost. They could lose all of them. Yeah. So that goes to the Colts, right? Colts are 8-6. They're on their backup quarterback. Bengals have their backup quarterback, a guy no one heard of who might win people fantasy leagues the way he's playing. Yeah. But again, not a guy with a ton of experience. Texans, they're on their backup. Who knows? I mean, unless Stroud comes back this week, but all these teams, the Bills are the one that's they're kind of scary.
Yeah.
And then the
way
Steelers
they play Dallas
on Mitch Trubisky. So it's all these teams have issues, and from a health standpoint, we really don't comparatively. Tim Patrick, but we haven't had him this whole season. Other than that, though, and Dulcich, he's probably done for the year. It seems like. Yeah. Okay, we haven't had him all season, so it makes sense to me that Patriots, we got to win week 1 here or the next week, I guess, and then it comes down to beating our division. And we've talked about that so many times. You got to win your division. You got to be consistent against your division. And we go against, again, all 3 of the people we're playing: Patriots, backup quarterback; Chargers, backup quarterback; Raiders, backup quarterback. And interim coach in the Chargers and the Raiders. So it's not ridiculous to think that we can win out. It's going to be not easy. It's never easy to win 3, but it seems like one of the easier 3 to win.
We're never going to get a chance this easy again, at least not anytime soon.
So there's some positivity. Believe it can happen. And I knew you had it. And it starts this week. And if we can beat a Patriots team that we all hate, we hate Bill Belichick, we hate the Patriots, we're at home. I hope it comes down to the final week against the Raiders, because if it's shut up or put up or shut up, and we don't win that, then it's you deserved it.
Yeah. For a number of different reasons. But I mean, the next streak we need to end is the Raiders winning streak against us, and so that could be very well the game that gets us in the playoffs, in addition to trying to beat that streak.
I think that will be the game that gets us. I do believe we're going to win this week. I do believe we're going to beat Stick. Yeah. His name's Stick.
He's a Stick. Yeah.
How do you not break that guy in half every time when you're a pass rusher?
Can you just imagine, Stick is quarterback of the champions, Super Bowl champions. It's his name's Stick. I can't get behind that. He doesn't have a championship winning name Stick.
I don't think anyone's clamoring to get him on their team.
No, definitely.
So I really do believe that we win these next 2, and that it comes down to the Raiders game, and I think we win that too. I do think we're going to get in. And
man,
I have no idea where we're going to be. I don't know if we're going to be 5. I don't know if we're going to be 7. I don't think the Chiefs are going to allow us to win the AFC West, because
not now.
We win out, they lose out. We do, but
that's it.
That's
that's the only way. They have the tiebreakers against us, so we would have to have one more game.
Why? I was curious. Why is that? Do you know off the top of your head?
It was conference games. They had a better record of conference games. I think it was the 3rd or 4th tier tiebreaker or something like that. It had it listed on.
But not if we went out. Well, it doesn't matter. Whatever.
Well, if we went out,
we'll worry about that scenario when it gets closer.
We'll talk about that week 8. It's not going to happen, so let's not really worry about that.
Probably not going to happen.
So, look, guys, we'll be back tomorrow night for Bourbon Broncos No BS, 7 p.m. Mountain Time every Tuesday night. You can check out this podcast if you missed out any of it on YouTube or any of the podcast platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are there. And we're going to be here no matter what, win, lose, or tie. This is our reaching the end of our 7th season here. So we'll be moving on to our 8th year here pretty soon. So hopefully a lot more good news coming down the pike for us and for all of you Broncos fans. John, man, thank you very much for being here. Always good seeing you, bud. I appreciate it. I really do. From the bottom of my heart. I do love you being the co-host of the show with me. So,
well, thank you. I know I'm better than David, obviously. Thank you.
You have better hair. You have better
hair. And watched. Yeah, it's a little off today, but that's fine. That'll happen from time to time. Just like the Broncos will be off from time to time, my hair will be off from time to time.
It's okay. I won't hold it against you. Just bounce back. Do better tomorrow. Okay. Hey man, let's go ahead and end this as we always do. On a very strong Go Broncos!
Go Broncos!
Take care, guys.
Do what I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sipping goose, if it's right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, yeah, they know I'm a pro.